So, my name is Dawson Paul. I am a senior member of the North 40 Mile 4-H Beef Club. This is my 7th year in 4-H, and I can honestly say 4-H has done so much for me. Like, been able to counsel little junior kids in camp, became a 4-H ambassador, that's pretty cool. And I've even made it to a trip to the Northwest Territories. That was fun. Only got attacked by a wild pig once, so that's okay. I think our two lovely ladies are ready to go. So, without any further ado, I would like to present to you Shanea, Sinke, and Wilene, Pronk. These are senior members of the Lethbridge North 4-H Club. They are in their 6th year in 4-H, and both of them are 16 years old. Wilene is currently in a beef project, and she's also done equine in the past. She enjoys the challenge of growing and training her steers and getting them ready for the show at the end of the 4-H year. Shanea is also in the Lethbridge Northern 4-H Beef Club, and she does market beef and the beef herd breeding project. She enjoys showing her animals throughout the year and hopes to pursue a future in agriculture. With that, Shanea, Sinke, Wilene, Pronk, from pasture to plate, from pasture to plate, Shanea, Sinke, and Wilene, Pronk.
Going out to feed the livestock, it ain't just a fling. Working round the clock, it's a farm girl thing.
It's a battle of the breeds, each beautiful in their state, but the only way my thoughts lead are to the big juicy steak on my plate. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson and conference attendees.
The first phase we're going to talk about today from pasture to plate is phase 1, baby. Writing out tags, mixing vaccines, and catching calves. It's just a usual day in the life of a rancher during calving season. Early mornings, late nights, newborn calves, and occasional emergency vet calls pretty much sums it up. Struggling to take his first steps, we cradle the 88-pound bull calf in our arms and ensure he has a good start on life by filling up on colostrum. Since a calf is born with no immunity, the colostrum gives them antibodies which provides protection against disease. The immune system is not fully developed until a calf is 1 to 2 months of age, so the first initial colostrum intake within the first 6 hours of life is critical for each and every calf. If the cow does not produce enough colostrum for her calf, it is important to have a frozen or formula colostrum mix available. As you can see here in this bag, we have a formula colostrum mix. All you have to do is mix it with some warm water according to label, and then you're good to go. So as you can see in the middle diagram, cows have 4 stomachs. The first stomach is the rumen, which you can see in green. It is mainly used to hold feed. Then next, the reticulum, shown in pink, has muscula for the further grinding of feed. Water removal then happens in the omasum, which is shown in blue. Lastly, the feed enters the abomasum, shown in orange on the diagram. Also known as the true stomach, the abomasum is where major food absorption takes place. However, reflux in newborn calves allows the milk to bypass the rumen and reticulum and go directly into the abomasum. So then, once we know the calf has been up and drinking, he gets tagged with an identification tag, making it easy to him paired with his mother. Some of our calves, however, get 4-H calves if we think they're that special and they later end up in the program. As required by law, the calf also then gets a CCI tag, which is the yellow button you can see in the calf's left ear. This is done to protect and promote Canadian cattle herds. Being in a commercial herd, the calf then gets castrated as he'll never be used as a breeding bull. And lastly, we give him his vaccines to initiate the development of immunity.
Growing like a weed, we'll monitor our little steer calf along with the rest of the herd. Being a favorite, we'll name him Nitro. To prepare him for the real world and to keep him strong and healthy, we introduce Nitro to some creep feed, which gives him the ability to eat the ration that has been restricted to calves only. As the grass grows and develops a rich green color, cow-calf pairs will soon be loaded up on a trailer and hauled out to pasture where they'll spend the summer grazing. To identify a herd, we make sure each animal has our brand on its left hip, and then we give each calf an implant, which is a synthetic hormone used to promote growth. So here we're just gonna show you. So Shanea will take the ear for the calf. She'll put the implant into the gun. And you take your needle and you slide it under the skin in the ear, avoiding any arteries or veins, and give your implant. And then usually you run your thumb over that area just to make sure that the implant has stuck in the ear. And then you just monitor the calves to make sure there's no infection in that area. Along with all his buddies, Nitro then gets loaded up onto a cattle liner and hauled out to pasture where he'll spend the summer eating, sleeping, and growing some frame. As the grass gets browner, the days get shorter, cow-calf pairs will soon be loaded up and taken home. Then the cows will start the weaning process.
At this point, we've brought all the calves home. They've been separated from their mothers, and now we're going to move into phase 2, the backgrounder phase. After the calves have been separated from their mothers, we bring them in to process them. They're averaging about 650 pounds. Each calf gets another implant, which is administered under the skin in the ear, as this part of the animal will not be later used for human consumption. Vaccinations are then given in the neck to avoid blemishes in more valuable carcass cuts, regardless of the age of the animal. So most vaccines and any other drugs will require you to usually give it either subcutaneously or intramuscularly. So if they're asking for a subcutaneous injection, we're looking at this diagram here. Subcutaneous is the bigger blue triangle. Subcutaneous means that you want to give the injection under the skin, so you're going to really make sure you get your needle at a good angle, get it under the skin, and then you can give your injection. For an intramuscular injection, we're looking at the smaller pink triangle. Intramuscular means directly into the muscle, so then we're basically just going to put the needle straight into the muscle and then give the animal the injection. Before we let the calves out of the chute, we then give them Poron Ivomec to prevent them from getting parasites. To help make the transition as stress-free as possible, the calves are brought into a well-bedded pen with fresh, clean water and a growing ration they can't turn down. So at this point, they're introduced to the growing ration, which you can see in the middle jar. Within a few days, the calves are settled down and we are welcomed with a bunk licked right clean. From this stage, the calves are always being closely monitored for any signs of sickness, and their feed intake goes up as the cattle grow. As we walk through the cattle daily while pen checking, there's one certain steer that always stands out. It's Nitro, the biggest, friendliest steer we know. Besides appreciating his daily scratch, Nitro has a pretty easy life in the feedlot. He eats, sleeps, and repeats as his grain intake slowly increases and he takes a step closer to the finishing stage.
So now at this point, all the calves have graduated from the phase 2 backgrounder and they're entering phase 3. They may stay at the same feedlot or they may go to a different feedlot for this phase. As Nitro and the rest of the cattle fatten up, they are put on a finishing ration, so that's in the third jar there, and given one last implant approximately 2.5 months prior to shipping date. Depending on the frame size of each animal, they are then brought to a packing plant weighing about 1,300 to 1,600 pounds. So now we've graduated from the finisher stage and they've entered into the phase 4 of the packing plant. So after each animal has been slaughtered, they are hung and cuts are made based on the location it comes from. So looking at this diagram here with the cow there with the orange and the green, in the green you're going to get your more valuable cuts, so your ribs and your tenderloins and your better steaks. And on the outside shown in orange, you'll get pretty good roasts out of that area, just not quite as tender meat from that there. So once the meat has been processed, it'll be inspected by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, who works to safeguard the industry and ensure that each plant produces safe, properly labeled beef that complies with relevant laws. Once the beef has been inspected and approved by the CFIA, it'll be shipped to wholesalers and other retailers. From here, thousands of consumers will be found daily lining up along the meat counters, ready to purchase some of the best beef in the world.
This brings us to our final phase, phase 5, the phase we've all been waiting for, seeing the beef on our plate. After purchasing some of the best Alberta beef, it's hard to keep it off the barbecue. This same beef has been produced by us, local farmers and ranchers, who do it as our hobby, our livelihood, and our passion. The long hours put in, struggling to keep a calf alive, and to dry our eyes and hope for better next year when the calf doesn't pull through is worth it, when we can see our own Alberta beef being proudly advertised and supported by those around us. When we see our beef on the plates of local consumers, it ties the industry together, knowing that we have fought hard to produce this finger-licking, juicy steak for you and I to appreciate.
Your steak may even taste different now that you've been educated on where it comes from. From farm gate to consumer plate, either way, enjoy it.